Tim Tebow released earlier this morning. We'll bring back what Peter King had to say about that, where he could end up, and also the list that Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com provided me. But I told you that I had a big story coming up top of the hour, courtesy of Sports Illustrated. I'm going to read how this article begins, and then we're going to bring in one of the writers who was sitting in with this athlete who said the following. I'm a 34-year-old NBA center. I'm black, and I'm gay. I didn't set out to be the first openly gay athlete playing in a major American team sport, but since I am, I'm happy to start the conversation. The athlete is Jason Collins, who has played 12 years in the NBA, would like to continue, but has decided to come out. Jon Wertheim was there when Jason Collins was telling his story. It's a first-person account by Jason Collins, and Jon Wertheim joins us now. What led up to this moment for Jason Collins to come out, John?
That's a good question. I mean, I think we all know this issue had sort of been in the ether for the last few months at least, and he did not, he writes very poignantly about this, he did not do this to make any sort of grand-scale statement. He does not see himself as an activist. I think what really drove this is he would like to be in a relationship, he would like to start a family, and he's sort of tired of lying and tired, as he puts it, of not being genuine to himself. And I think he just said, you know, enough is enough. I'm going to do this, and we'll see whatever happens. But it'll be out there, and I'll do it on my terms, and let's just go for it.
But why now? Anything lead up to this that he finally had an epiphany and said it's okay now to come out?
You know, it's interesting. His college roommate was Joe Kennedy, who's now a congressman, and he said he saw Joe Kennedy last year marching in the gay pride parade, and he said, you know, how ridiculous is it that this means a lot to me, and I'm not willing to do this. There'd be too many questions it would provoke, and yet Joe can do it. And I think that was really a seminal moment. He wanted to wait until after the season. He did not want it to be, as he puts it, a distraction. And then I think he was also moved by the Boston Marathon, that, look, we never know what life is going to throw at us. And I think all of this culminated. I mean, he only came out even to his twin brother less than a year ago. But I think this last year he's done a lot of thinking and has basically just said, you know what, enough's enough. I've got to live my life on my own terms here.
His twin brother, he only came out a year ago, too?
And listen to this, his twin brother was absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, he sort of said, and they're very close, they live near each other in Los Angeles, and he said, look, I got to tell you something, and Jaron was just, you know, knocked out flat. I mean, he needed a few hours to sort of regroup and process and digest. I mean, they're still as close as ever, but it's not as though his brother ever suspected this.
But the timing of this, it's latter part of his career. I don't know how many more years he has, but if he was a rookie, or let's say he was in his third or fourth year, what was the apprehension back then of what kind of reaction he was going to get?
I think, honestly, it's more 2013 versus even, 2008. I mean, I think it was more the culture than where he is at his career. He sees the Chris Cluies, and who's very, the Imadejos, and he saw John Amici. I mean, John Amici, even 5 years ago, John Amici comes out and gets death threats. And I think, Jason has sort of seen this shift. He's seen the president talk about marriage equality. I think he feels that the atmosphere is a lot more comfortable. And he said, look, this is not about me being a rookie versus me being the end of my career. It's about, on this issue and on the issue of homosexuality and acceptance, this country is in a much different place than we were even, 5-10 years ago. Is
this a one-time coming out talking about it, or is he going to be part of a larger campaign here?
I think somewhere in between. I mean, he's a bright guy. He's 34. He went to Stanford. He has no delusions about the significance of this and what it means and how he's now going to be redefined. And I think it's not a one-time. I mean, I think he plans to march in the Gay Pride Parade in Boston this year, for example. I think he's happy to have a discussion. He's happy. He said, look, NBA players want to come talk to me about this. I'm happy to have a conversation. He's not going into hiding, but I also don't think we're going to see him on the front lines of any great activism campaign. I mean, he wants to be a basketball player, and he wants to start a family. And I think that he knows that you can't make an announcement like this and then take it off the table and say I've said my piece. I mean, he'll be out there and he'll be happy to talk, but I don't think he's going to. I think he doesn't want this to redefine him either.
He's Jon Wertheim from Sports Illustrated. The cover story was in Jason Collins, who's right now a free agent, but it starts with saying, I'm a 34-year-old NBA center, black, I'm gay, didn't set out to be the first openly gay athlete playing in a major American team sport, but since I am, I'm happy to start the conversation. Did he check with the NBA, the commissioner, just so the commissioner wasn't blindsided by this?
I think the NBA got a heads up, but again, this was something he really did on his terms. He had never come out to any other, no NBA players. He'd never come out to any players in the league. I mean, he'd come out to some friends and some family, but I think the NBA had a bit of a heads up, but I don't think much. I mean, I think he really – and it's funny, I asked him about that. I said, you don't think any of you've played for 6 teams, you've been in the league for more than a decade. Do you think there was any speculation? And he sort of said, look, my own twin brother was blindsided here. But it's interesting. He sort of said, look, I go, I do my job. I've got 6 fouls a game to give. I play good team defense, and then I go home. So, I think the NBA was made aware of this in advance, but again, he didn't do this to make a great statement within sports. This was really a decision for him and sort of his private life and his desire to start a family.
What do you think this will do with signing on with another team? That he's a free agent going into his 13th season, and now this comes out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it honestly, I think it probably cuts both ways, but I think that. So the guy's a serviceable big man. I think the market will play a role, but I also think that, I think if teams sign him, they're going to sign him because they need a backup big man, and if they don't sign him, they're probably not going to sign him because they don't. I mean, I don't think that this makes him necessarily more or less marketable. I mean, there's certain markets and teams where he would probably rather play than others, but I'm not sure the fact that he's now out is going to have a huge. I mean, he said this. He just kept saying, I think the league is ready for this, and that means culturally, but that also means the locker room. So it'll look, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I don't think teams are suddenly going to shy away that had an interest in him, 24 hours ago.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
Jon Wertheim, Sports Illustrated.